California, we've got some new tour dates for you. I'll be in Los Angeles on August 14th at the Dolby Theater, Anaheim on the August 16th at the Honda Center, and Oceanside on August 17th at Front Wave Arena. Get your tickets early this Thursday, June 19th with code RATKING, 10 a.m. local time. General on sale begins Friday, June 20th. Get your tickets only at theovon.com/TOUR. Please avoid any scalper sites. And thank you so much. This is the Return of the Rat Tour. Almost over. I promise it's almost over. And thank you guys so much for all the support. Today's guest is a United States congressman from California's 17th district. That is Silicon Valley. He's from Philadelphia. His parents immigrated from India. He worked with Bernie Sanders. He was his co-chair on Sanders' presidential campaign in 2020. I'm grateful for his time. He's a member of the Democratic Party. Today's guest is Congressman Khanna. Khanna. Is that right?
That's right. Perfect.
Nice. Thank you for coming in today, man. Thanks for meeting up and just being willing to come and chat. You are Indian. Your family is Indian?
Indian heritage, yeah.
Okay.
My parents immigrated from India. My grandfather, actually, Amarnath Vidyalankar, spent years in jail fighting for India's independence as part of Gandhi's independence movement. And then my parents came and settled in Philadelphia. That's where I was born.
Do a lot of Indian people, is that some places in America are certain like kind of spots where people start to come. Is that a popular place that a lot of Indian people have gone to over the years?
Where I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, there were a few Indian families, but it was 99% white. The bigger places are New Jersey. Have you ever been to Edison, New Jersey?
I don't think so.
Edison, it's got a lot of Indian food. Have you eaten Indian food?
Oh yeah, I've had some good Indian food.
What's your favorite dish?
I think it's like it's like where you all sit in a circle and everybody kind of like catches a cold together or whatever that
Catches a cold?
No, I just mean like everybody's like kind of sharing off of the same
it is
plate.
a very sure thing. You got to come to Fremont sometime in California. That's the best Indian food in the country. But Fremont, Silicon Valley, a lot of Indian families, New York, New Jersey. But my upbringing was interesting because I was one of the few Indian kids growing up in Pennsylvania. And, I grew up, though, with a lot of teachers who believed in me, Little League coaches who believed in me. And at times I would get teased being Indian, but by and large, it made me very hopeful about the country.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks. I know we wanted to talk about, I'm trying to think, I actually wrote some questions down today because I feel like it's important.
This is like Meet the Press. You got you're on a different level. I thought the thing I love about your show is it's kind of just you talking like a regular person.
Maybe you're right. Should I put these away, you think?
I mean, no, you can give it a try. I
think because you know why? I think this is what I realized. I was like, man, sometimes I have conversations with people that I want to be able to get more information from, and I can't remember everything, right?
But you know what the thing about you is, I'm not saying this to flatter you. A lot of times you'll ask questions, and they're like deeper and smarter than some of the Sunday talk show hosts. And I think it's because you actually talk to real people. And it's sort of like, well, how does this affect my buddy? How does this affect real people? So you could give it a try with the.
Well, we'll do a mix. How about this? I know how we got in touch is you and I had like similar thoughts on different topics online, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just start with Iran or Iran. People say it differently, but do you think we're headed into World War III here? What do you think's going on?
I'm really concerned. I'm fearful. We have a possibility where we're going to blunder into another war in the Middle East. And just today, actually, to make some news, Thomas Massie, who's a principled Republican, and myself introduced a war powers resolution saying that the president should not get into a war with Iran without coming to Congress. The president, to his credit, ran against the war in Iraq. He ran saying, I don't want any wars. And the reality is that if we strike Iran, they start hitting us back and hitting our troops in the Middle East, terrorist activity. That's going to cost this country a lot of money. that should be being spent here at home. It's going to mean people could die who are serving the country.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's take a look at this, at the bill that you guys were thinking about. What is it called?
It's called the War Powers Resolution to Stop a War in Iran, which basically says before the president does anything to go into war with Iran, he's got to get a vote in Congress.
And how long does that take, though? Like usually to get a vote in Congress? Like, is there a certain period of time? Like, can they do it in 24 hours? It takes weeks or what?
They could. It's the decision of the Speaker of the House to when he can bring it. He has to bring it within 15 days. But what we want is today. But by the way, there are a lot of Trump supporters who are telling him, don't go into this war. Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, Dave Smith was talking about it. He's he's a comedian who also talks a lot about politics, I think this is a horrible idea, and yeah, people say, well, you don't know a ton about the Middle East. Well, like, that's fine. I don't want people I know, my friends, getting called up. I don't want the children of my friends getting called over to die. I don't even understand how it's an option. The only reason I even kind of want it to be possible is that if Israel goes to war with Iran, then it'll at least stop killing Palestinian people for a day or two, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like it's like at least point the guns that way, kind of that's where some of my thoughts are.
Well, you've been such a courageous voice on Gaza. I mean, you look at what's going on there, right? 55,000 people killed. Now, Israel says some terrorists, and they're right, some terrorists, but most of them women and children.
Yeah.
You've got 130,000 people injured. You've got over 600,000 kids who are not in school there. You've got the entire population of Gaza being forced into a southern corner of Gaza. And then you've got over 400,000 people who are starving, who don't have enough food to live a decent life.
Yeah, and the saddest part, I feel like, is you see this and you're like, somebody should come help them. That's my first thought a lot of times. And then the saddest thought for me after that is we should come help. Like, it feels like America is the group that would go to help that situation usually. We're
the good guys, right? I mean, we were the good guys in World War II. We saved the world from Nazism. We were the good guys in the Cold War. We stood up to the Soviet Union. People want to think that we are the good guys. Why are we helping Netanyahu in the killing of children, women, and so many Palestinian civilians? Now, look, Israel was hard hit October 7th. I'm sure, like many people, you thought that was horrific, the October 7th attack.
Oh, yeah.
And neither of us have any sympathy for Hamas. They're a terrorist group. But what happened is I supported initially Israel saying, go get those terrorists who committed those horrific attacks on October 7th. But within 3 months, they had destroyed a lot of Hamas. What now is happening, over 2 years later, they're still going and bombing. And they're bombing because Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, two of the people in Netanyahu's cabinet, are saying, don't stop the war. Even though they know that you can't bomb and eradicate Hamas. They haven't been able to do it. And the only thing that's happening is that civilians are getting killed, and Israel actually is becoming less popular in that region. I mean, I was in Saudi Arabia and Jordan. They're losing support.
Yeah. So why is Netanyahu trying to drag us into it? What do you think that relationship is like between him and Donald Trump?
So I think Donald Trump actually initially stood up to Netanyahu because he wanted to bring this war to a close. And he didn't want to get dragged in initially to a war in Iran. I mean, you know what Trump's courage was, why he became president in 2016? Do you remember the Republican stage? And they all asked, are you for the Iraq war? And Jeb Bush, who was George Bush's brother, wasn't willing to say that his brother made a mistake.
Oh, yeah, he's a little oil bunny.
And Donald Trump, to his credit, stood up on a Republican stage and said the Iraq war was a disaster. I think that's how he became president. And he ran saying, I want to be a president who ends these wars. I really believe that's what he thought at the time.
Oh, well, sure. Well, I think recently, how we're doing okay without the notes so far, huh?
You're doing great.
Okay, thanks.
I wish people had more common sense. like you than the people who are making this foreign policy establishment. Actually, my recommendation is that before Donald Trump makes a decision, he needs to have a conversation with you.
Oh, God.
No, well, to remind him, because I watched your actually clip with him during the presidential campaign, and I said, you made him the most human that I've actually seen him. I mean, your conversation with him about his brother and alcoholism, and then he asks you, what was it like for you to have cocaine and your addiction? And I thought, wow, this is like him having a normal conversation.
Yeah, it felt pretty normal.
And so, but I think, do you know anyone, Theo, in your life who's like, yeah, we should go out and go to war with Iran? Like any of the folks you talk to?
Nobody. Even like hardhead, like even guys who like former Navy SEAL, no, none of them. Nobody is saying yes. And I felt like the biggest thing there's so many things right now, and it's like I feel like in the world that are kind of stressing people and making people nervous. But one of the things is I felt like it was supposed to be America first. Like we're focusing on like, what are we doing to get things back into America, right?
Exactly.
To like increase like the purpose of being an American, to refill like our hearts with blood and like and make us feel something again here and make us be excited about being an American, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like that was what a lot of the energy was for. And then now that we're caught up here and it feels like we are just working for Israel, I think to a lot of people it's, I don't know, you just really start to feel very disillusioned pretty quickly. And I don't mean disillusioned in people. I don't mean disillusioned in like the human beings, but this disillusioned in our leaders, right? You start to feel like, I don't know, at one point, neither one of these parties is helping us.
Well, they both seem like parties that have gotten us into war. I mean, $6 trillion it cost us into Iraq and Afghanistan. And we need now an anti-war movement in this country. And I don't think it has to be Democrat or Republican. I think Americans are sick of war. Here are the two things I think we could do. Look, on how do you end the war in Gaza? Right?
Yeah, that's a great question. What would you do to curtail things right now in Gaza? Do you think they're really going to aim for like a two-party state over there? To me, it looks like they're just going to try to sweep these people into the ocean, Well, which I hate to say that.
The problem is you've got Netanyahu, who is listening to his right wing, right? Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. These are two guys.
Smokeless is other guy's name?
Smotrich.
Smotrich, bring him up.
There he is, Smotrich.
Bezalel Smotrich, yeah.
And these guys are basically telling Netanyahu that if you stop bombing Gaza until all of Hamas is killed, that we won't support you for prime minister. So if Netanyahu stops, he stops being prime minister.
I see what he's saying. So he's in a bit of a catch-22.
He's in a catch-22.
But I don't understand if because you always hear great things about the Israeli military, right? The IDF, you always hear like how amazing they are. And I've met a lot of former people that have been in it and guys who were like in the Krav Maga, some really talented warriors, really. But then why not send like your Navy SEALs to get the actual Hamas people? I don't understand this. If you're so precise, then what is this? You're bug spraying this group, these people, like
they got them in the first 3 months. They destroyed most of Hamas's military capability. But the reality is, Hamas is both a military movement, but it's also partly a political movement. I mean, there are people.
Right. Some people in Palestine elected Hamas because they thought they needed a desperate political party.
Exactly.
Right.
So then the question is, well, what do you do? Because I agree with you that Hamas can't be governing Gaza.
Yeah.
And so there is a solution. And the solution is the president, Donald Trump, can call Netanyahu. He says, okay, enough with the bombing. We're giving them right now 2,000-pound bombs to hit these civilians. We're giving them.
There's a video the other day. Sorry to interrupt you, bro.
Please.
Can you see if you can pull it up, Trevor? There was a video of a child picking up the casing of a missile and reading it, I think. See if you find that. Maybe we can't find it. That's okay. Do you think there's any chance of Palestine getting its land back there?
I do. But first of all, you talked about this child getting a missile. How would it make you feel that our tax dollars actually were paying for a lot of the missiles and the weapons that are being used to now kill Palestinians.
I agree. I think we've given them $12 billion this year, Israel allegedly. Can you look up what amount of war materials that we've given them, Trevin? United States provided significant military aid to Israel throughout 2025. The Trump administration, which took office in January 2025, has approved nearly $12 billion in major foreign military sales to Israel. This includes nearly a $3 billion arms sale. Does that mean we're selling them to them?
We're selling part of them to them, and then we've also given aid. Now, I voted against the offensive weapons aid about last year, but we approved it. So some of it is in aid, some of it is in sales. Trump is giving them 2,000-pound bombs that they can be using. So here's, though, what I think that I'm hoping he or others may be listening to this, because your voice really matters, because you know, and a lot of people who voted for him, and they voted for him because they wanted American patriotism. They wanted to focus on building our industrial base. They wanted us out of these wars. Donald Trump can call Netanyahu and he says, enough. We're not going to be giving you more offensive weapons to kill more civilians in Gaza. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to convene Saudi Arabia. I'm going to convene Jordan. What
does convene mean?
Convene mean bring them together.
Okay.
Convene, bring them together. That's it. We're going to get the Arab states together. Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, people in Palestine, Fatah, Israel, the United States. And we're going to say we need a new government in Gaza. It can't be Hamas. You know, Hamas is a terrorist organization. We're going to get rid of Hamas. And we're going to make sure that this new government has Palestinian voices, but also has Saudi, Jordan, Egypt, part of it, to make it secure,
right,
so that they don't attack Israel. Because Saudi doesn't want to attack Israel. You know, he could win the Nobel Prize. You know, he wants to always win the Nobel Prize.
Donald Trump?
Donald Trump could win the Nobel Prize.
How could he win it, do you think, Ro?
I think if he comes in and he says to Netanyahu, stop this, I'm actually the president who's going to bring peace. And here's how we're going to do it. It's not just going to be Israel, the United States, and Palestine, because we agree Hamas can't be anywhere running Gaza. I mean, Hamas has called for the destruction of Israel. We have to stand for Israel's right to exist as a Jewish democratic state. I mean, that is a principle we have to respect. But we're going to get Saudi Arabia.
And they have to respect Palestine's right to exist,
they
right?
They have to respect Palestine's right to self-determination and have a Palestinian state in Gaza and in the West Bank. And you can get those two states. And with land swaps, you could actually make it that even a lot of the settlers are still going to be able to stay in some of the places. I mean, you could get to a lot of the deal we know that needs to happen. But Trump has a good relationship with the Saudis. We have a good relationship with Jordan. We've got a good relationship with Egypt. Get all of these countries on board and say, okay, what is the new Palestinian leadership going to look like? Saudi, Egypt, Jordan, are you going to guarantee?
Qatar, too.
Qatar.
My boys over there.
I
was just over there, man. They had us all dressed up like a bunch of Ku Klux Klansmen.
You were in Qatar?
Yeah.
What were you doing in Qatar?
They had me come and perform for the troops.
Wow.
It was really great. It was pretty special. But sorry, I interrupted you just to get a joke in, but also was excited and had a great time there. They really treated me very nice. People thought I was a spy. I thought maybe they were going to try.
Well, you could be part of this whole Middle East plan. Maybe you'll go perform if they get a state there. I mean, what bothers me is that we know what we need to do.
Right. So why is Trump afraid? Is Donald Trump afraid of Netanyahu? I don't understand that. You know, because Trump certainly feels like he is a guy who does not seem afraid to say what he wants to say.
I don't know what it is, because I want Trump to do the right thing. Like, I want him to start to end the war in Gaza, to actually figure out how we get peace there. And I think he could, if he picks up the phone and he says, Netanyahu, you're done. Netanyahu is going to stop the bombing. And then Netanyahu is going to say, okay, but we got Hamas. I can't stay here with Hamas. And Trump could say, okay, I'm going to help you get rid of Hamas. But you can't keep bombing and killing women and children. That's not getting rid of Hamas.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy, dude. I mean, it's just like...
And so you get Egypt, you get Jordan, you get Saudi Arabia. I call it the 23-state solution. You get all of those Arab states.
Put Mississippi. Dude, I'll tell you this. We can give Mississippi to Palestine. I've been saying that for 15 years. Have them come over, have Mississippi.
Have Mississippi?
Yeah, have the Palestinian people come and move there if they want.
Yeah, but they want Palestine.
I understand.
Right?
And I do understand that. I was just trying to give them something that I think everybody could, because Mississippi could use an economic boom. They could use, I think, some.
You're for Palestinian immigrants coming, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. With Palestinian immigrants coming, it would just kind of like add a new texture to that whole state. I think it needs like a rebirth of thought. They have a lot of great arts there, but I think they
had Faulkner.
Oh yeah, they had some greats. They had Eudora Welty. They had Faulkner. They had Jackson Dart. I mean, they've got some great Morgan Freeman. I mean, those are easy ones, some of them. But no, I'm just saying, if they had the Palestinians there, it'd be interesting. So I've just always thought that would be interesting.
But I think your voice on this really matters, because no one sees you as sort of like some campus activist shutting down university buildings. You're talking to regular people. You're talking to people who are truck drivers and blue collar workers, and you're saying, you know what? I'm always for the little guy. From the stuff I've seen about you. If there's like one Theo Von political philosophy, it seems like you're for the people who are being bullied. You're for the people who are kind of shut out, and that's how you're seeing this Palestinian issue. It's not because it's not Jewish or Palestinian or Muslim. It's like, how can we not be for both people? And now you're the most powerful country in the world, and a lot of people supported Donald Trump, and he has an opportunity to bring the suffering to the end and make peace.
Yeah. Hey everyone, I've been telling you about MoonPay. Yep, MoonPay. That's what I've been using, because I've been getting back into crypto. I've been tiptoeing in the crypto, and you feel me? Yep, MoonPay has got me back. MoonPay is one of the most user-friendly apps out there for buying and selling crypto. People call it the PayPal of crypto, because just like you use PayPal to buy almost anything online, you can use MoonPay to buy almost anything in crypto. Nearly every crypto app you've heard of uses MoonPay, and it works with credit cards, debit cards, Venmo, and even PayPal. Now here's where it gets really interesting. MoonPay powers payments on BonkBot, a cutting-edge AI trading bot designed to optimize your crypto trading strategy with advanced algorithms. Whether you're trading 24/7 or looking for a more hands-off approach, BonkBot ensures you make data-driven, intelligent trades. It's your AI-powered partner for smarter, more profitable trading. You can top up with MoonPay and its many payment methods on BonkBot. Remember, while MoonPay makes buying crypto straightforward, it's essential to do your own research and understand the risks involved. Crypto trading can be volatile, and you could lose your investment. MoonPay is a tool to facilitate your transactions, not a source of financial trading. Trade responsibly. Hey there, summer side hustle. It's getting hot, the birds are chirping, and you might have that itch to make some extra cash. Go on a little vacation, whatever. One thing that's really helped me with that is using Shopify to run my merch store. That's what we use. It's simple because if I'm out of town, I can just check on my phone and see what's going on right there. Boom. I can see what's being ordered, what's not being ordered, how much, how, when, why, etc. Yep. Over the years, Shopify has been there as we moved out of a basement over there in Akron, Ohio, and bigger areas to hold our merch. Shopify makes it so easy for me to start and run my business, and it will for you too. So if you're ready to build your own little empire or just start selling seashells by the seashore, whether it's merch, a new product, or your new idea, go to shopify.com/THEO and make it happen. That's right, shopify.com/Theo. You know what I realized the other day? Because I've been thinking a lot about like voice, right?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to have a voice? And I don't mean like me having a voice in the world, but just to even have a sound that comes out of my throat that means something, that's connected to my heart or to my feelings or to my thoughts. And it's just, it's a gift. It's interesting to have. And then what it feels like when you are afraid to speak, right? Like, I feel like my whole life when I was a kid, I wanted to have a voice for myself, I just never had a voice. We were in a pretty traumatic place when I was a kid, and so I just never had, I didn't even have any feelings to put together to share what I wanted to share, right? So I think like, Like I'll always go for the underdog. I think that's all it is. Dude, I will have my team.
That's kind of like your philosophy, right?
Look, my team will be in a series, right? A best of 5.
Yeah.
And if my team goes up 2-1, I'll start cheering for the other team. For some reason, I always cheer for the underdog.
I grew up in Philadelphia. There was the Rocky story, right? And that's the American thing. Like Rocky is the underdog. And
we're supposed to be the ones there to help, right?
Right.
We're supposed to be the ones there to help. And if your country isn't even going to do that at a level that's grandiose, right? Then what makes you want to go home and do that at your own level? You'll still do that, but you won't do it in feeling that you are supported by your country. And I don't want people to go die over there. I don't think that it doesn't feel right to me. And that's okay. Some people might be like, well, you're not a political pundit. I don't give a shit.
But you know what?
I don't care if I am or not. I am a human being.
And you're a citizen.
And I am a citizen. And some people are like, well, you're lucky to be a citizen. Yeah, but I'm a citizen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a citizen. I think the Native Americans should get things back.
And you know what? Your voice hasn't been corrupted. I think part of the challenge in politics is you get surrounded with so many of these interest groups. You get surrounded by how you're going to raise money. You get surrounded by all these foreign policy thinkers.
Dude, we're working together. I didn't even realize it. Ro, I hate to interrupt you, but right now, my question is...
Yeah.
Ro, one thing I like about you is I feel like you're a black sheep. You take a lot of unpopular stances. That's something I really admire. One of those is not accepting lobby from PACs or PACs. We hear about them a lot of times. Some of my listeners, you hear about these PACs. It means Political Action Committee, right? And I'm reading this. Just give me a break, guys, real quick. We're at a point, I believe, where a lot of people are starting to see that neither party really represents the people. That's the feeling that I'm hearing people say. I've heard Candace Owens say it, and she's very much been kind of a Republican role model. I feel like, or at least have some influence of that. I feel like she's also kind of in a lane of her own. Parties have been unable to keep businesses and lobbyists away from politics. In 2025, lobbying was at an all-time high of $4.4 billion. I believe that's a couple sites said that online. The sites could be lying. How can we know who is accepting lobby money? First of all, how do we know that? You know?
So first of all, take a guess how many lobbyists there are in Washington right now. Ballpark.
12,000.
10,000. That's pretty good. 10,000.
They're hiding a couple thousand. You know it.
10,000. Think there are 500 members of Congress. That's that 535, right? Members of Congress, senators. That's 20-1, right? You play football. Like imagine you got 20 people. You're wide receiver. You got 20 people covering you.
Yeah.
Now let me give you a concrete example of how this stuff works. Pharma lobbyists, right? Just big pharma. Mm-hmm. There are about 1,200 big pharma lobbyists. So it's about 2.5 to 1 for every member of Congress. I'm sure you know people who want to get some drug, prescription drugs I'm talking about, and it's too much money, right? And they skip it. Do you know folks?
Oh, yeah, totally I do.
So Donald Trump, one of the good things he does is he puts out an executive order, and he says Americans shouldn't pay more for any of these prescription drugs than people in other parts of the world.
Right.
I've had people who go to a foreign country to get the drug because they don't want to pay them. They can't afford to pay the drugs here.
Yeah. One night I'm hanging out with the girl, and we've been on a couple of dates. I thought we're gonna maybe smooch a little. It's 11 p.m. She's like, I have to go drive to Mexico
to get
Ozempic. I'm not even joking. She's like, I have to drive to Mexico to get Ozempic. And she's like, if I leave now, the hours are best for driving there and back. And I was like, oh, God.
So the way to her heart was like getting her this drug. Huh?
I'm not riding with her, but I gave her a little bit of gas money, because I hope to see her again. But anyway.
It's crazy, right? I mean, we're paying for all these drugs to be developed. You and I pay the NIH to develop all these drugs. Then the big pharma sells them at a profit to Americans. And basically, the rest of the world gets these drugs at a fraction of the cost.
Right. So we're subsidizing their cost over there.
We're subsidizing their cost. Now, someone could say, okay, Mexico or some of these developing countries, fine, they should have these drugs cheaper. But we're subsidizing Great Britain. We're subsidizing Japan. We're subsidizing Europe. These are rich countries. Yeah. We're subsidizing Switzerland. So Donald Trump, one thing that I agree with, he comes out and he says Americans shouldn't pay a higher price than any other industrialized country.
Yeah.
I'm the first congressperson actually to introduce his executive order as a law. I said, okay, because the executive order, the pharma just will sue it and tie it up in court and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, because he had another one with price transparency, right?
Exactly.
Where it was like all the prices of if you go get an MRI, whatever it is, it needs to be like a menu. Like you go to McDonald's, you know how much it costs.
Right.
Because without a menu, they can just charge you later whatever they want, right? Which is part of the whole bait and switch of the insurance system. It's part of the whole shell game. That was another executive order, but that hasn't been enacted. Like, how do we get these things to actually happen? Like, why do they stop at an executive order? Because there's always this pomp and circumstance.
Right.
Like, it's an executive order, but it never gets followed through.
Because it gets tied up in courts and they get sued and they say, well, Congress didn't authorize it. So I actually give Trump some credit for putting it out there, but he knows, everyone knows it can't actually make a difference until it becomes a law.
And who sues it? The pharma companies?
The pharma companies sue it. They've got a whole industry of lawyers, of lobbyists, and they come out and they sue them. And by the way, they're making record profits. And they say, oh, we need this money to do research and innovation. Give me a break. They have those profits. They're buying back their stock. They're giving out dividends. Their executives are making tons of money.
Oh, yeah. They're buying freaking Corvettes, dude. They're doing that. But they are. They're all probably all have Corvettes. And they don't care. That's the thing. They don't care. But how do we stop that system, right? First of all, do you believe that system can actually be stopped?
I do. And I do, and I'll give you two examples why. Because we did it with big tobacco. You remember that when tobacco basically had Washington, D.C. bought. And then there was a campaign that said, free kids from tobacco. And
Bring that up. I want to see a picture of that. Some kid with a smoke if they let him. They used to,
there it is. Yeah.
The Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, an American nonprofit membership organization established in 1995 with Bill Novelli as its first president. Okay, so that happened in 1995, and that had an effect?
It was them. It was grassroots organizing. There was a hearing in front of Congress. They brought in all these tobacco executives, and basically the tobacco executives were seen lying to the American public, saying, yeah, we know that this stuff is addictive, and that had a huge impact. There was laws that got passed that said you can't sell tobacco cigarettes to kids. You have to disclose the addictive quality. So we stood up to big tobacco. We also did it one other time in this country famously. I don't know if you know what DDT is.
DDT, yeah, definitely. It's in the yard, brother.
Yeah,
that's what they say. It's in the grass, right?
It's the fertilizers.
Yeah.
And there was this woman, Rachel Carson. She exposed that it was hurting your health. It was hurting the birds. It was hurting the ecosystem. And that led to Congress saying, no, we're going to ban DDT for a lot of different uses. We got to do the same thing in standing up with Pharma. How much money does Pharma spend? $380 million a year.
In lobbying?
In lobbying.
Or in commercials, you mean?
Just in lobbying.
Now, does lobbying include commercials? That means paying to congressmen and reps.
That's paying to congresspeople and reps. That's like money that is going to congressmen, to representatives, to state legislators. So I introduced this bill, right, saying, okay, let's do what Donald Trump wants. Let's do what Bernie Sanders wants. Like, how can we disagree on this? Let's take it to Pharma so Americans don't pay more. I get two Republicans who co-sponsor it, Representative Luna and Representative Biggs.
Bring them up. Bring up Luna and Biggs. First of all, and if that's not a animated series, I don't even know. It sounds also like it could be a rap group, Luna and Biggs. We got to shot him. So that's Andy Biggs. He's a legitimate guy?
He's a legitimate guy. I mean, look, disagree on things, but like he's willing to stand up for what he believes. Mm-hmm. Representative Luna, she's willing to stand up.
Oh, dude, I was just looking at her online yesterday. I like her. I mean, she has I like what she says. You know what I'm saying? I like her energy.
She has an independence. And I got a few of the Democrats to be on board with this. Obviously, they don't want Americans being overcharged for prescription drugs. I mean, this was part of Bernie's whole campaign.
And now people are there also people telling you that they got on board, or did it come down to a vote? How did it end up?
So right now we don't have a vote. We should have every single person in Congress co-sponsoring this. The way Congress works is you got to get to about 100 people to co-sponsor it, and then the speaker calls up a vote on the issue. But because you got big pharma's lobbying money, they're so cynical. They don't try to stop convince people to vote against it. They try to stop the Congress people the speaker from bringing it for a vote.
So they would invest in Mike Johnson?
They'll invest not just in Mike Johnson, they'll invest
is that libel or slander for saying that?
No, I mean, it's just...
They would try to lobby Mike Johnson.
They'll try to lobby Mike Johnson. But there's this quote that I love from Dr. King. He said, attack the evil system, not the individuals who happen to be caught up in the evil system.
Okay,
right?
got it.
So, there's some egregious cases. The problem is the system is rotten.
Okay.
And they are pouring money into different campaigns, into different lobbyists, and basically are not going to allow a vote on this because they know if there's a vote and someone votes against Donald Trump and against lowering prescription drugs, the American people will be furious.
Are going to know who they are.
Are going to know they are.
Right, and then we can call them out by name.
And so they just don't want anyone to do it. And this is the game. This is why we don't get Medicare for all, why we don't have health insurance. Health insurance is not that we haven't had a vote on Medicare for all. This is why we still have fossil fuel subsidies. We haven't had a vote to get rid of fossil fuel subsidies. This is why we still have a defense budget that is over $1 trillion. We don't get votes on cutting out the excessive contracts. I mean, the game is to stop the vote. And so let me ask you, the thing I wanted to ask you actually the most in this conversation is, do you know people who are just like, I'm done with politics because I don't think I can make a difference? It's just...
I'm saying, that's what I'm telling. That's what I've noticed in the past few months on some of my favorite shows that I listen to and watch. People are like, oh, I see now, nobody has our side. Neither one of these groups, it feels like, have our side. You feel like it's just all these articles. It's like, well, here's an article about this is going to happen, and then people get in an uproar about it. But nobody, it's almost like it's all algorithmed perfectly to the amount of our attention span, where it just fades out of like the zeitgeist of discussion. And zeitgeist just means like the circle of discussion at the moment, I think. But so it's just like, it just fades, and then the next ball hits the air, and you're like, oh, look at that one. That's it, transgender something,
Right,
and then
right.
that one, then it's like, oh, racism again. Here I am, forget about me. And then but it's the same. After a while, you just like, I've seen this show so many times. I think even our DNA is sick. So I think you're having newborn children that are like, this is fucking bullshit. Because I think it's in our DNA now how long the charade has been going on. And that's where I see people are like at a point where they're just at a loss. How can that be stopped? How can that sort of thing actually be stopped? Can we do anything, or does it have to fall on our representatives?
The representatives aren't going to change things. And this is my biggest concern for the country, that people keep getting disillusioned. They're like, I can't change anything. I'm just going to focus on my own life. Every 2 years, every 4 years, you get congresspeople, presidents saying they're going to do something. They do some executive order. It gets tied up in courts. Big Pharma blocks any reform. And what's the point, right? And then the problem is that the less people get engaged, the more power these lobbyists and moneyed interests have, because they don't want the engagement.
No.
Right? They're perfectly fine with the system. And they're like, okay, we will keep supporting our members of Congress and presidents. Every 4 years they'll run on change. Nothing actually changes, and let people get more and more disillusioned. That's what's going on in this country.
I mean, look, I believe that we've entered like a privatized communism. That's what I say a lot. That's exactly
That's pretty good.
What it seems like we're in, right? And you're sitting here telling me that our vote doesn't even really matter. So yeah, people are getting disillusioned. But what do we do?
But that's why I gave that example of tobacco and DDT. When the country actually mobilizes, when they're like, we're done with this.
Like, what do we need to do? Buy a Jeep or whatever?
Well, I think one of the things you do is like, look at who's taking money from these interest groups, right?
Okay. Is there a site that we can look at where that's reported?
Opensecrets.org.
Ooh.
Opensecrets.org.
Crack that bit open, cat. I know Chuck Schumer's on it.
And everyone
is that slander or not? I say that.
Yeah. I think you're well, not even close to the line of slander.
We're not?
No, we're not.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah, that little money monkey's taking something. But you can find it on OpenSecrets.org. You can find out how much each person gets and from where.
You can find out how much each. So I don't take any PAC money, right? I don't take any lobbyist money. But you can even find out individuals aggregated how much they're getting, and then if they're getting money, fine. But then look at their voting record. Are they are they voting on against Big Pharma? Are they voting against the big insurance companies? So first is just being aware. But the second thing is we've got to demand that people have a vote on getting lower prescription drug prices.
Who do we ask that for? From Mike Johnson?
Mike Johnson.
Okay.
We got to say
he's from Louisiana.
He's from Louisiana, and he's.
So I'll say it right now, Mike Johnson. Why don't you put the vote up? I mean, everybody wants this. Everybody is tired of watching people. Medical debt's the number one cause of bankruptcy in America. We know that. It's bipartisan, right? It means both partisans like it.
Yeah. I mean, It's Trump's bill. I mean, it's Trump's executive bill.
Just help us, dude. Give us something. You know what I'm saying?
Two things he could do a vote on. One is stopping the war in Iran. I mean, that he can. Massey in my bill, he has to give us a vote on it unless he plays games. And then two, let's just focus on Big Pharma, getting Big Pharma.
Yeah, let's start with one lobby. Let's start with one big lobby. I think it's just it's like, give us something, man. I was like, because you know what I'm saying? He's from Louisiana. So like that, Louisiana is a state where it's mostly about like people, right? Peer to peer. It's like the state doesn't have a lot of, I don't think we have one top, we don't have one Fortune 500 company, I don't think, in the whole state. Maybe Entergy, but I think that they left. So we're a low-income state. But the one thing that we do have is each other's backs, right? And I just can't imagine that Mr. Johnson wouldn't bring this to the floor. To the floor, is that it?
To the floor, yeah.
Bring it to the floor, Mike. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, if people are sick. People are sick, man. People are dying. You don't want to bring it to the floor? I think that's fucking bullshit. Now, if you are bringing it to the floor and Roe's not telling me the truth, then I'm sorry, Mike, right? I'm sorry, dude.
And I got a good relationship with Mike Johnson.
Mike's awesome.
But someone has just got to say,
he's a cool guy. But he's got keys to the janitor's closet, and it's time to fucking get the broom out and sweep this shit out from under the rug. That's what I feel like.
And you know what will happen if there's one time we take on one of these lobbying groups, whether it's Big Pharma,
the rest will get scared.
Big insurance, the rest get scared, and it's going to give hope to this country. Yeah, my voice matters. Yeah, I can get involved. Yeah, I can bring change. I mean, we have been voting for change in this country since Barack Obama. Every 4 years, every 2 years, like kick him out. Let's try someone else.
Yeah,
and no one. And
yeah, we put in a mixed guy. You know, it's like, damn, we got an Indian guy showing up.
They're trying everything. They're even trying the Indian guy. I mean, the country is like, who do we need? They don't care about Indian, black, woman.
No.
They're just like, get me someone who's going to actually bring change.
Give me somebody with some balls. That's one reason why I support a lot of trans stuff, because I'm like, and maybe one of these women will have enough balls on them to fucking get us to where we need to be. Like, if that's where we're at, where we have to attach balls to an emotional sense of empathy that a lot of times is in a woman, and that's who we need to get us over this hill of bullshit that we keep climbing up, then maybe that's what we need.
You know what? It struck me when you said Louisiana doesn't have one Fortune 500 company. You know, I represent Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. You know, in my district.
Hold on.
You know, my district.
Hold on. Dude, we're about to go in.
All right.
You and I spoke on the phone about, this is crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Did you read this somehow?
Which?
Are you that Oz mentalist guy?
I mean,
no, you're not.
I'm not.
Sorry. It said, and I'm sorry, I'm going back to my notes. And thank you, man, for talking about this stuff with me, man. It helps just like, one thing I noticed, even we spoke on the phone the other night, man, and it just like, after I got on the phone with you, I felt a little better. I was like, at least I have somebody to talk about this with. Dude, yesterday I'm leaving this restaurant and a guy comes up to me. He's missing a tooth, or he was missing one. And he was like, hey, man, thanks for speaking up about Palestine stuff. And I said, well, honestly, I don't know a ton about it. It's just kind of how I feel. And he goes, well, I think a lot of people are just afraid to speak up. They're afraid if they speak against Israel that they're going to be labeled an anti-Semite. And I was like, oh, no. I said, I understand that, but I think that's just a verbal trap. You know, I said, you can have, I have tons of Jewish friends that I talk to every day, and I don't think what Netanyahu is doing is good. But anyway,
don't undersell yourself. You have more common sense and your values than 90% of the foreign policy blob that has gotten us into all these wars and that has compromised our humanity. There's a reason the founders wanted Congress to be making decisions about war and peace. They trusted the American people, right? Like the kings of the past, when the founders were there, they would just do wars for their own glory. And the American people the founders were really suspicious of that. And they said, you know what? We actually trust the farmers and the people in factories and ordinary Americans not to get us into all this stuff. And they trusted people like you, Theo. And the problem is that your voice has gotten out of Washington and not central to it. But now we've got all these podcasts and they can't ignore you. So good for you to try to take back citizen voices. That's what this country was supposed to be.
Well, yeah, thanks, man. I can't. Sometimes I'm like, what the fuck do I have to do with anything, dude? That's a shit that, like, I'm like, good
You're
God.
a citizen.
Right. Now
who
that I
hasn't
agree
been
with.
corrupted.
But then you're just shocked when you're like, this me? Like, it just, I think it just always blows my mind.
I think the test in politics is like pretty simple. There are two basic tests to politics. Do you believe that the American people are smarter and wiser and have good values? Or do you believe in like a bunch of experts and elites? Like I fundamentally believe like if we just allowed and listened to people, normal people, we'd be much better off in this country. And the second is like, do you love and believe in this country? And I do. I think we're a good country. I think we're the good guys, right? Most Americans want to be the good guys. And like we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
Because we got so many intermediate moneyed interests, lobbying interests, PhD foreign policy experts who are corrupting the process.
Oh, yeah. They're corrupting, man. They're bought and paid for. They're spies. They're spies. And the sick part is, to me, they're just killing themselves. They're killing the future of their children's imagination. Think of all the little things that you are hampering. But then I guess, money, when you see things happen with money and it's hard to prevent. So like you said, don't point at the person, try and point at the overall issue. But I love that opensecret.org or com.
OpenSecrets.org. They can do an analysis on everyone. They can do it on me. They can do it. And, it's not like there's no one who's perfect in American politics.
Let's look at Mike Johnson.
All right.
I'll look at him right now. He's not going to be happy about it. I'm sorry, Mike.
He's a good man. He's a man of faith. But the whole point is like maybe he ends up actually putting this for a vote. I mean, that would be, but like all these PACs.
Imagine being fucking Paul Revere. You know what I'm saying? That's what he has a chance to be. Because then we could all hold these people like, you fucking vote for this or you will never be back in this thing again.
Seriously.
Right? I think that's what people can do. Why doesn't Open Secrets have an app that makes it really is it very easy, the interface, for people to be able to navigate how to find out who gets what and whatever? Or is
it's
it
pretty
tricky?
easy. You can do it like that. I would look at two things. One, how much money do they get from PACs? Mm-hmm. Which are the PACs? How much money do they get from lobbyists? Mm-hmm. And what are the industry groups? Now, if they're taking money and they're still voting against those groups, fine. But what raises red flags is when they're taking money and they're not bringing something for a vote, or they're voting with those industry groups.
Right. This says top contributors for 2022-23 for Mr. Johnson, American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
And that gets to the vote on Iran, right?
That's AIPAC, right?
That's AIPAC. And like Massey and I have shown independence on that. So, okay, bring this vote so we don't get into war on Iran, or and don't be beholden to groups who are telling you, no, let's just go along with Netanyahu and strike Iran. Like
it's fucking, it's absolutely crazy. And you know what the craziest thing is that we've had Thomas Massey scheduled to come in for like a month, right?
He's great. He's one of the smartest members of Congress.
He's a maverick. That's what I like. I think you and him both are mavericks. It's one thing that I admire about you is that you make choices that feel like your own, right? And the odds that you guys have a bill together, and then you're here today and he's coming tomorrow. So
is he coming tomorrow? That's awesome.
I wanted to put you on the same day so you at least get to say hey, but maybe in the future.
We've done stuff. We've done a lot of stuff together. We both have like people in our own parties who get upset because we take stances that are independent. We work across the aisle. But isn't that what Congress is supposed to be like? I mean, when you have a conversation with your buddies, do you always agree with like three of them and then have three of the others always disagree? It's like so irrational. Yeah. Usually like you'll agree with someone on one thing and you'll disagree on something else. And yet in Congress, it's like you got these two teams and they're always supposed to be with their own parties. And that's not how people actually are in real life. They want people who just think for themselves.
I agree. And the craziest part is they're on two teams, but they should be playing for the same group, right?
Team America.
Yes. And the
Team
fact
America.
that there's like, it always feels, the craziest part is it feels like it's you as a citizen against your own, that's what it feels like now. It doesn't feel like this person, it feels like that in the voting, like they're going to, and then it feels like it just changes. Once they get over that hill, you never see them again.
You know what? One
But
thing
Mike Johnson's a Louisiana boy, and I think that he'll do the right thing, man. And but I could help keep tabs on who votes for the right thing that they're supposed to vote for, because it's unbelievable. We are literally, it's still DDT, but it's prescription drugs, and we're killing our own people, you know? This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. I like staying hydrated, baby. It's important to me. It's important to me just to get to a cellular level. I like to hear them little babies getting drenched inside of me. That's who I am. And Liquid IV, well, they help me. Now, mostly I enjoy the sugar-free options that they have. White peach, lemon lime, rainbow sherbet, and more. They've got them. And they just released their new sugar-free flavor, Arctic Raspberry. I just get my water bottle, open it up, hit it with a stick of Liquid IV, bam, shake it up, doused. And my cells are feeling hydrated. That's it. No matter what your summer brings, tear, pour, and live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code Theo at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code Theo at liquidiv.com. Getting your sweat on might seem like hard work, but with Symmetry Sauna, it's a work of art. Premium custom saunas for your home or business, plus a series of sleek, pre-built saunas. I just got myself a Symmetry sauna, and I'm sweating out bad decisions. Like the time I tried to just fill my own chipped tooth in. Why sauna? Well, it relieves sore joints and muscles, improves skin, boosts heart health, and melts stress like hot butter. And I'm finally sleeping like a baby, which is rare since I'm usually up at 3 a.m. wondering if penguins have knees. Pro athletes, fitness buffs, big folks getting small folks getting big. Everybody's hot boxing. And Symmetry saunas can help. Designed in the USA, made with aspen wood from ancient Estonian forests. Ooh, yep, fancy trees. Symmetry Sauna, the perfect balance of form and function. Learn more about how to get your own premium home sauna from Symmetry Sauna at symmetrysauna.com/THEO. Okay, so you and I spoke on the phone about the tech lobby, right? And that was something that I had never even heard the term before, the tech lobby.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. Your district in California, because you're a Democratic congressman, right?
Correct.
From California.
Yeah.
Your district is home to 5 companies worth over $1 trillion.
Yeah.
That includes Apple, Google, NVIDIA, Tesla, and Broadcom, while half the country is deindustrialized and dependent. You guys you're in part of you represent a very special district.
Yeah.
How big is that tech lobby? Who are the biggest players? And are there multiple tech lobbies fighting against each other?
Yeah. Well, first, let me just say that part of the problem in this country is that we've got $14 trillion in my district and 5 companies over $1 trillion. And Louisiana doesn't have a single company in the Fortune 500. Like, how did we allow this to happen in America, where all the wealth is piling up in Silicon Valley?
There are 2 Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Louisiana, Entergy and Lumen Technologies. And I'm sorry about that, guys.
But even that, right? You got 2 companies and you got $5 trillion companies in one district. And a lot of what we've got to figure out is all these places like Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Lorain, Ohio, Downriver, Michigan, places totally hollowed out. You go there and there's 30% hotel occupancy, and then they're looking at Silicon Valley making more money than any time in human history in the world. Like, how in America did we allow this to happen? It's crazy.
It's sad.
Income inequality. It's sad and it's unconscionable. But is there a tech lobby? Yeah, there's a tech lobby. Let me tell you one of the things that's been in the news that I know you've discussed. Palantir, right? And The contracts that they're getting, $113 million to create this database on Americans. And I know you asked someone.
Yeah, I did. I asked JD Vance about Palantir because I'm scared of it, right?
Yeah.
This is just on my thing. That's so crazy, dude. We are like, this is bananas. I asked JD Vance about Palantir because I'm scared of it. I felt like he gave kind of a political answer to me, right? Which is no judgment. That's what I felt like. I want our listeners to know why I'm concerned. Well, one of the reasons is that Palantir got a $795 million contract with the U.S. Army for the Maven Smart System, which is using artificial intelligence tools for data fusion and target identification. And then a $30 million contract from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to develop an operating system that identifies undocumented immigrants and tracks self-deportations. So one of the things that's going on is that it feels like to me that they are asking they've granted Palantir the opportunity to create this overall database. And that is one thing that JD did talk about. So maybe he didn't give that just a political answer. He said he believes that it's just an overall database where like the local police department will now have them and the IRS, everything will be synced up so that if you're involved in something in the world, all the databases will be linked, right? Now, I felt like he would maybe know more about it because he has a relationship with this guy, Theo, who is one of the founders of it or something, but I don't know if that's true, right? And maybe he didn't give me a political answer. I think it felt, I don't know. You know what? Maybe it's just, it wasn't the exact answer I wanted, right? And so that's why I'm kind of framing it like that. So yeah, I don't want to say that. It just felt, I think it wasn't kind of what I wanted to hear, but that's also part of diplomacy, right? It's like, I learned that recently. It's like you're not going to get everything, right? Nobody gets everything. But anyway, that's what it said. It was this overall database. And to me, I'm thinking, dude, if they have an overall database, right? And they know they're going to know everything. To me, it feels like that they'll just have this, like all your information, your bank card, your blood type. They'll know if you prayed this morning. They'll know just by like biometrics or whatever. If you've hit your knees, they'll know if you're feeling hopeful. They'll know all of these things, right? What are things that we don't see coming from this Palantir deal? Do you think that those fears are realistic? What do you think?
Well, I'm concerned. Let me tell you how I see the facts. First of all, I don't want to dunk on the vice president because I saw some of the interview, and I love the fact that you have people here of different viewpoints. But he's got a particular view. I mean, Peter Thiel founded Palantir. Peter Thiel also, I mean, it's public record, put $15 million into his campaign.
Innovations campaign. Yeah, we talked about that.
To make him a senator. So I'm not questioning him. I'm just saying he's got a view of a relationship with Palantir. And we've got to figure out what are the objective facts. I mean, the Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel. And it was founded by CIA's In-Q-Tel, right? This is what funds it.
CIA's, what do you mean?
The CIA has a venture capital firm called In-Q-Tel.
In-Q-Tel.
They gave the money initially for Palantir.
Okay.
There's certain things that Palantir does that are important to our country. They're using AI for military applications so that our fighter pilots can identify targets, right? We need certain things to make sure that we're the leading military in the world. The problem is on this database that they're creating about Americans, right? And here's what they can do. They're not collecting the data. They keep saying, I'm a data aggregator. That means they're creating the program, the software, where the government puts in the data, your financial records, your health records, your employment records. They can buy your social media records, and they put it in, and Palantir spits out information. Now, let me give you a concrete example of why this could be dangerous. Let's say you're a comedian. You know comedians, right? My guess is before you became Theo Von, there were times where as a comedian you did shows that made you maybe $5,000 a night, and maybe then you'd go a while and not make anything or make $500, right? You got good shows, bad shows.
I mean, we made $100, for sure.
And I'm sure you still have friends who are in stand-up comedy and who have good nights and bad nights. Now, Palantir this database suddenly flags and does an algorithm. And if someone's having income here and there, they say, well, is this person a risk for tax evasion? And suddenly they're getting audited because they're making a predictive model that stand-up comedians should be making $70,000 a year, and this person isn't disclosing their income. Are they a risk? We don't know with Palantir, what their algorithm is targeting. Are they targeting ordinary people who have incomes that are variable? Or are they targeting the billionaires who are evading taxes? It's just a black box. We don't know what data of your friends or my friends is being collected and whether they're actually creating a database. All we need to do is have transparency. I have 3 simple things that I think we should be able to get consensus around. Your data should not be collected without your consent. You need to know what data of yours the federal government has. The federal government should not have any of your data that they don't absolutely need to provide you a service. And then when Palantir, we should know what their algorithms are. Are they doing this to audit people who are like making 50 grand because they're accusing them of tax evasion? Are they targeting their algorithms on the very rich or on ordinary folks? What if you have a social media post that says things that are critical of the government? Is that information now the government has? It's like a whole black box.
Yeah. It's very scary. It's very scary too, because what if another country says, hey, Palantir, you're our friends. Why don't you target these people in America so we can start to bring them down, right? Why don't you start to adjust their scores? Hey, why don't you make it so that it makes it look like these people have already paid their taxes if they haven't? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
There's just all these little things that could be plausible based on whoever owns the information. Like whoever owns Palantir, whoever owns that algorithm is going to be able to basically puppeteer so many things that could be possible. And even if they're not doing it, there's the fear that they could be doing it.
There's the fear they could. And there are no laws right now, right? We need laws saying, show us your algorithms, have an audit of the algorithms. Who are you targeting? How do we make sure that you're not using this in a negative way? And basically, like, Americans should know what data people have about them.
I agree with you 100%, man. And I want to say this also, and I don't want like a company like Palantir to think like you're bullying me or you're doing this or that. They just happen to be the company that has been picked, and it's a scary time. It's already so scary with like technology, everything happening so fast. It's spooky. Right?
And you have a nuanced view. Look, I have a nuanced view. There's things that Palantir does that are important for our military. Like just saying, oh, Palantir is all bad would be unfair to what they're doing on the pandemic. They helped with distribution, or what they've done on the military. The point is, though, this American database building is scary, and trying to predict whether someone is being a tax delinquent or not, trying to predict if they're going to be a financial risk, trying to figure out a profile on them. And what we need, I really blame the lawmakers, because what we need is the laws to protect people's privacy, to protect people's data, to protect the use of these algorithms.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And we're going to get to that. I know you have the Internet Bill of Rights, and so we're going to get to that in a second. Yeah, this is the push. I want to say this. The push has put a key Palantir product called Foundry into at least 4 federal agencies, including DHS, HHS, and others. Widely adopting Foundry, which organizes and analyzes data, paves the way for Mr. Trump to easily merge information from different agencies, the government officials said. And that's what J.D. Vance said when he was here, right? He was saying, and I'm reading that off of the New York Times, give or take what you think about them. But that's what J.D. Vance had said, that he thought it was just this overall compiling, this kind of aggregating of information, right? He didn't think it would get super specific. So I do, I don't think it felt a little political to me, but that also could just be what he exactly believes, and that could be exactly what's happening. I think there's just a lot of fear with it. It says in here also, creating detailed portraits of Americans based on government data is not just a pipe dream. The Trump administration has already sought access to hundreds of data points on citizens and others through government databases, including their bank account numbers, the amount of their student debt, medical claims, disability status, etc. So this will just, I think this whole thing just goes further down that line. And I don't even, of just like knowing everything about everyone. And I don't even think that it's Republican or Democrat. I just think it's where we are in time right now with technology, and that it's very scary, and that you can start to see how big the tech lobby is. I want to say this. One thing about Palantir, though, that a lot of people have had issues with is what they're doing in Gaza, right? With AI targeting. And this is off of, I read this online, and so that makes it probably uncredible. But allegedly, Palantir software is reportedly used by the Israeli military to help select targets in Gaza. Its data mining and AI systems can process intelligence reports, communication intercepts, and surveillance data to generate lists of potential targets in a matter of minutes, a process that previously took hours. Lavender and Habsora, which are two of their kind of, I guess, programs or overall idea names. And Habsora means the gospel. Investigations indicate that two AI systems, Lavender and Habsora, are at the core of this collaboration. Lavender assigns Palestinians a threat score based on metadata, social media, and movement patterns. These systems reportedly operate with significant error margins, and their recommendations can be enough to authorize deadly strikes, sometimes with minimal human oversight. Gaza is described as a live laboratory for these AI technologies where new systems are trained, tested, and refined in real-time combat conditions before being marked globally as battle-tested solutions. I think that's where a lot of the fear is.
It really is.
If that can happen there and they're capable of that, then how do I know if when I'm walking down the street that some decision I made years ago or something, a bullet's not just going to fly out of anywhere and go through my head from a drone or something, you know? That, I think, is the big fear about this. And I think some people don't even know it.
I think the big fear with technology...
Is that crazy for me to say that?
No, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to fear that machines should not control human beings, right? I mean, look, technology can do a lot of good, it can do a lot of bad, but the key principle here is, are human beings going to be in charge? From what you described, it looks like that AI is being used, they're selecting targeting, and the biggest negative in that whole paragraph you read is without human oversight. I mean,
Right.
You still need a human being saying, okay, wait, we're not just going to go do strikes because AI tells us there's a risk. There's some women and children there. Let's not have those strikes. There's a hospital there, right? And I think that one of the things we need to adopt for the United States is there has to be a human being making decisions before any military use, any military strike.
Yeah, at least give me the fat guy with the donut sitting there to be like, nah, forget it. Nah.
It's like we're now going to be, we're celebrating. I'd rather have a human being, right? Because there's some compassion.
I agree.
There's some sense of guilt. AI is not going to feel guilty. AI is not going to feel a compassion. AI is not going to have any accountability.
AI doesn't even go to sleep at night. How can you trust something that doesn't even go to sleep at night?
Right.
You know, that doesn't even give God a chance to rebuild the inside of it while it's resting.
That's pretty beautiful. Yeah.
I do not understand this, man. And that's very scary. And that happens. It's happening allegedly. I want to say that. It's allegedly, you can go look it up for yourself, happening in Gaza, that this. And to me, it does start to feel like that. You're like, it has been such a massacre. They are so overabundant. I mean, it's basically people climbing into holes of rubble looking for pieces of their children and family members. And it's like, we're watching it all. It really does feel like, am I now part of some sick experiment? Like, how long do I sit and watch before I raise my hand or say something, or at least some part of me that has a voice inside of me, like says, I don't want, just take me out. I don't want to be in this game anymore. I don't like it, man. I don't like it. We're going to keep it moving right there because we have some other stuff that I wanted to say. I wanted to think about this with you. At some point, like if we lay this layer of technology over our society, right? And whether we do it now or it's in the future with AI, this all-knowing kind of layer that knows, like, if you've eaten, knows your blood pressure, knows how far you've walked today, knows how much money you have, knows the emojis you've sent recently, to kind of get an aggregate idea of how you're even feeling as a human. Then that almost becomes your God, right? In a weird way. I know that some people say nothing will ever be a new God for me. I feel that, and I agree with that, and I respect that. But if you're say future generations, if they're raised under this cloud of that's all knowing, then that would they almost at some point pray to this algorithm that it would give them a lottery ball of some sort of thing or something. Does that even? I mean, it's kind of Ray Bradwellian or whatever, or Brad Burwellian. But does that make any sense to you, man?
Well, that's why we have to keep our humanity. You know, some of the stuff in Silicon Valley is crazy, where these tech leaders really are trying to be godlike. Let me give you two examples.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of this thing called cryonics?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where
we had a guy on who did the freezing.
Yeah. Oh,
years
you did?
ago. Yep.
I mean, basically, they want to like freeze your body if you die, if I die, freeze your body and your brain so that some future medical technology could bring you back to life.
Some pervert, probably, too.
And Peter Thiel's done this. Reportedly, Sam Altman at OpenAI has done this.
Have signed up for it?
Have signed up for it. That's the reporting. Now, I'll tell you why that's so bad to try to be immortal. One of my favorite speeches of all time was Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs founded Apple Computers. He dies of pancreatic cancer. He gives this commencement speech, and he says that life invented death, and death is a change agent because death allows for the removal of the old guard and for new ideas and new creativity to come about. Like, you're supposed to make way for a new generation. We're supposed to be mortal. So you have these people who are trying to be immortal. Now, why does that matter? Because this is partly AI, right? If you don't have a sense of your own mortality, your own limitations, you're not going to have a humanistic sense of putting people over machines. A second example with these tech leaders. They want to build these tech cities. Have you heard of that?
I've seen like pieces in Memphis and stuff where people are getting sick because of like data being uploaded and stuff in their neighborhood and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's
storage,
that's a big issue of how these data centers are being built and whether they're going to cause pollution or dislocation. But they really want to build these tech cities, not just a city. It's like a secular genesis. Like they want to build a new civilization with algorithmic norms, with morality that they're setting, not like that was set by God or years of civilization. And it's scary. It's scary because it shows an arrogance, a lack of humility. My sense is, look, AI can be an incredible tool if it helps you figure out how many steps you walked and when you're sleeping and how to be nutritious. But it has to be subservient to human agency. We have to have laws that say ultimately human beings are in charge. And we have to make sure that we're teaching people to have the critical thinking skills and the autonomy to be able to use these programs and not be subservient to them. And to me, that's the biggest question for humanity. It's ironic because, you're asking almost deeper questions than any of these Sunday talk shows are in Congress. Like in Congress, we're busy fighting about like who insulted who and like who's up, who's down in the polls. And we just have this technology revolution that's going to change how all of us work, that, is going to make people afraid if they're going to lose their jobs, that's going to try to create this super intelligence, wondering whether we're making the decisions or machines are making the decisions. That's what we should be talking about.
Right. And we should be talking about it in a way that is, and I guess there are ways to talk about it in ways that are exciting. But I just think right now with what you have seen, like, to me, the destruction and the stuff caused by Israel now, it makes it very scary right now with that company, because you've just seen that, and then that's the company that's going to oversee our country. What's going to keep me from being a Palestinian to the next guy who starts the button in the morning from his cell phone and then goes off on his yacht, and just
the Constitution, hopefully.
Right.
But
right. Hopefully the Constitution. Thanks for your patience today, Mr. Khanna.
Ro is fine.
Rohit. That's your real name? Rohit?
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Rohit. When I was a kid,
Rohit.
People I still remember this, they used to say, Rohit is on fire. And then I figured out it was like making fun of my full name. And then when I used to go up to hit on Little League, I used to chant, Ro can't hit, Ro can't hit, watch the bunt. But, we have this in common, right? I looked up that you got a long name that.
What's your full name?
It's Rohit Khanna.
Rohit Khanna.
But we're both. I don't want to geek out because I loved literature, but it's like quintessentially American to, in some ways, change your name and to make your story, right? Like my favorite character in all of American literature is this guy Jay Gatsby, and his name was James Gatz. He was from North Dakota. And he said, well, James Gatz is not a sophisticated name, so I'm going to call myself Jay Gatsby. And he reinvents himself. And in different ways, you, Theo Von, like no one would have thought you'd be Theo Von growing up. No one would have thought this geeky Indian kid is going to go represent Silicon Valley. And Rohit Khanna is going to become Ro Khanna, representing the most economically powerful place in the world. But like that's the story of America, right? That's the story of self-invention. And it's something that we've kind of lost. That it's why my parents came here. And the question is, how do we get that back? Like how we've talked about all the negative stuff, which I get. Point. But how do we get people believing in this country again, believing that we can do big things again?
Well, I think there's some ways, and we'll go into this now then, because we're on my list here, and I am using a list today. That's okay, because it's an important conversation. Because of AI, job replacement has already started to happen.
Yeah.
Right? What kind of worker protections can be implemented, do you think? Because I know you have an Internet Bill of Rights, and then we can talk about that right after that.
Yeah.
Or it may be part of it. But what do you think? Because we should be protecting the human, right, at a certain point.
We should be protecting the human. And we could go two ways with AI, right? One way of AI is, like, this could create a lot of new jobs, right? We could build new factories now that are productive in this country. You could have someone in a classroom in Kentucky now who, because of AI, doesn't get to go to Harvard or Stanford, but suddenly has the knowledge of the whole world at their fingertips, and it can get that kind of education. You can have someone working in a small rural town making 80 grand or 100 grand because they're a content creator. Or you know how many content creators there are in this country? 1.5 million who make some money doing content creation. Or they can do digital marketing, or they can help AI start a small business. So like my point is, how do we get AI to lessen the wage gap, to create economic opportunities, as opposed to just eliminating jobs?
Yeah.
The scary part is, what if they're going to start to eliminate jobs? Like if you're a truck driver, what if they say, okay, we're just going to have self-driving trucks? That's why we need to pass laws saying, no, I need a truck driver for safety. Like, would you fly on a plane right now without pilots?
Mm-mm.
You know, same thing. I wouldn't. So let's make sure we have basic safety in terms of recognizing that we do want workers, and workers get to have a say in how to use this technology. You know what the scariest thing is? The unemployment rate for kids between 21 and 29 who have a college degree. Like everyone often says, oh, if you have a college degree, you're going to be employed. Actually, it turns out if you have a vocational skilled trades, 21 to 29, you have a 2% unemployment rate right now.
Wow. College
degrees, 15%. That could go up to 30% if with AI, with these entry-level jobs. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we need, I think we need the federal government to help incentivize people getting apprenticeships after they're done with a trade school or a college, so they can actually get a job, but make sure they're subsidized. Create a government future workforce administration that hires them so they get a few years of experience and then can go on to the private sector. Most importantly, everyone needs to understand technology and AI. The old cliche is you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by someone who knows AI. Mm-hmm. And in our schools, K through 12, everyone should have a technology class. China is aiming by 2030 to have universal literacy on AI.
Not to interrupt you, but I think, well, one thing you said here that was really great was, anybody, I agree, a lot of jobs it's going to be scary. I'm amazed. I was talking to my brother yesterday. I said, bro, do you have your kids learning about AI right now? Like, are they learning about it? Are they starting to use it? And my brother's like, no, I don't think so. I said, dude, I feel like it's coming so fast that it could change things really fast. Now, one thing you mentioned is anybody can learn this right now. It's almost like a great reset in a lot of ways. So you have the kid who couldn't afford to go to Harvard, right?
Yeah.
Who couldn't afford to go to MIT, whose father doesn't have the nepotism, because we certainly live in like a NEPA society now in a lot of ways, whose father didn't have that capability. Now that kid can get on a computer for probably 6 weeks or something, really focus and crack down, and could probably get a job. Like, I was literally looking the other day, I was like, I need somebody who knows everything about AI, right? I need somebody who can program and design and help with AI. Like, I want to start like an AI studio, right? And
that's pretty cool.
And I got to do it fast because everybody else is going to be be doing it, right? You could have a new NBC.
So even someone like you needs AI, right? Like
100%. I feel every day, and there's a little part of me that like a little string inside of me that gets a reminder, like, hey man, you have to get on top of this. I know other things are pressing.
And I hope kids who are listening to this hear that, because a lot of people want to be like, how do I be Theo Von? How do I be this guy with a podcast or do stand-up, be a stand-up comedian? And even someone like you want to do that, you got to know AI. Look, one of the things I say is, look, I was really good as an Indian kid at math, right? Like every Indian kid is. But you don't need math. Like you don't need algebra and calculus anymore to do AI. You don't have to.
Dude, you're gonna shake up all of Madras by saying that.
You don't have to be like I was, like some nerdy kid who did like mathletes and got good grades on math tests. Don't need it anymore. If you want to be an advanced coder, programmer, fine. But the amazing thing with AI is now it does all that for you. Yeah. You know what jobs are actually being eliminated? The coder jobs, the guys who did all the math, the AI is doing the coding for them.
Imagine there's a guy sitting there building AI, and it's only going to take his job.
So now, like, okay, you don't have to be the kid who did algebra and calculus. Not to say that you shouldn't learn math, but you should learn it for your own sake. But even if you don't like math, now you can just learn this technology. You just have to be comfortable with it. How do you use it to do a business? How do you use it to learn about the world? And you can be the one asking it questions and prompting it, and it can create a whole new level of jobs. And you know what the exciting thing is? You don't have to leave Louisiana. For so many times we said, okay, you got to go move to Silicon Valley, move to New York, and people in
the gold rush or whatever.
And people in Appalachia were like, yeah, no, it's really beautiful here. No, I really like living in my small town, in my rural community. Like, no, I don't want to live in New York. No, I don't want to go to Rose District. I often ask all these people in my district who are like, oh, okay, just tell them to move here or move to a tech place. I was like, well, are you going to move to Louisiana? And no hands go up. Then I was like, why are you so arrogant to think they want to live here?
Yeah.
They like it where they grew up with their families. But now you can like live there and you learn a little bit of tech and you can work for almost any company in the country, in the world. That is the opportunity if we do this right. And we should start with kindergarten through 12th grade. It's just like reading or writing.
I agree.
Your brother's kid's going to do it?
I hope so. I'll say this. They're not working for me one day if they don't. This is also interesting because it's like every now and then there's something that makes it where you can jump. You can jump up a cast or a system. You can jump a couple levels. And I believe that right now this is that thing.
I say the same exact thing. You know, the wealth gap, there are two huge wealth gaps in this country. One is between places like Silicon Valley and factory towns, rural towns that were decimated. And the other is a racial wealth gap, 10-1. White families and Asian American families 10-1 the wealth of people who are African American, Latino American. Technology, you can do that, scale that in one generation. Yep. If we can get rural communities, factory towns, towns in the Black South, the opportunity to do things with tech, and build companies, build wealth, be content creators.
Oh, hell yeah. Black AI, dude. You know what I'm saying? Build me a trap beat, homie. Let's get this. No, but I agree with you. It's an opportunity, right? And that is, it's an opportunity. Some people are like, there's no, and I know that's just one thing, but also another thing is that trade jobs, like you're saying, you're still going to need plumbers for sure. You're still going to need, you're still going to want the hands on the wheel of a human being, I believe. But there's a lot of trade jobs, you're not going to be able to replace those. You talked about an internet bill of rights, right? Which you tried to pass, I'm guessing, or tell me about that. Tell me a little bit about that experience and why do we need that? Do you feel like we already answered that or no?
I could go do it briefly. I mean, there's a guy, Tim Berners-Lee. You should have him on sometime.
Tim, what's his name?
Tim Berners-Lee. He is the founder, basically, of the World Wide Web. Wow. He's one of the people who made the internet the internet.
Oh.
And I'm sure he was like knighted or something. And, so he and I talked, and we came out with this Internet Bill of Rights. When you remember that Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal where people lost their data on Facebook and profiles were made. Mm-hmm. And basically it said, in this country, no one should take your data without your consent.
Agreed.
And you should know where your data is. I mean, there are other parts of it, but it's like pretty simple. You own your data. You control your data, and you should know what's happening with your data. And I think, and by the way, you should be compensated to some extent for the use of your data if you consent. There should be a data dividend in this country. And I think that is not a partisan issue. It is an issue that's going to become increasingly important with things like this database that may be being made. Like, you should know. Do you know, Theo, right now what the government knows about you?
Mm-mm.
Do you know if there's a profile on you? Do you know, like, what if that database is wrong?
Well, Pisces, I know that. I'm trying to think of what else. I don't know. Yeah.
Like, you should know. Yeah. You should be able to consent. You should be able to get something deleted if they have an incorrect information. And what that applies to the government, and it applies to big corporations. I don't want Google having some profile on Khanna. I mean, so we introduced this in 2017. Wow. 2017. Congress to this day has not been able to introduce or pass any Internet Bill of Rights. There are no protections. You know, when Josh Hawley...
When you say there's no protections, oh, you just mean there's no protections for people.
I mean, no protection for people. Mm-hmm. Josh Hawley once, and there are places where I actually agree with Hawley, he had Mark Zuckerberg stand up and apologize.
To those parents behind him. Parents. I saw that.
And someone said to me, you know what he should have also done? He should have had the whole Congress stand up and apologize. The problem isn't just these tech companies, it's the Congress. We've had this stuff going on for 10 years, and Congress has not passed an Internet Bill of Rights. And one of the things I say is, like, I know these people. I know how they think. They're going to run circles around you. You got to hold them accountable. Have the tech guy saying, hold them accountable.
Why won't they do it? The same reason as before?
Why won't the tech companies do it?
Who's lobbying? Who's lobbying against them? Big tech?
It's tech lobbying. It's internet service provider lobbying. Wow. It's these lobbyists. And they don't want, and we haven't, I mean, can you imagine this country that has a constitution, that is a country founded on freedom, and we don't have any federal legislation saying you own your data?
Oh, well, that's what it's all become. It's all part of this thing where all you become is data, and then you don't own it, and then you're part of a new country without you even realizing it. You got put into a whole new continent, titled or owned by whatever tech monarchy owns it, or oligarchy owns it, and then that's where you are. People are like, I'm in America. Like, that's fine. You can believe that all you want, right? But if another company owns your information, that company can't really even be sued. There was also part of that big beautiful bill that keeps state like AI.
It's the worst part of that bill.
The AI, you can't even sue the people. Bring it up for me. Get to that really quick.
10 years, they want no state to have any regulation on AI. 10 years to give a free pass to these big tech companies, no regulation. I spoke out against that, and my phone blew up because I had all these angry tech leaders saying, Ro, how are you speaking out against these moratoriums? That's when I knew I was doing the right thing.
Yep, that's when you know you're doing the right thing, man.
But you know what's sad, Theo, in this country, and because you and I both have gone to some of these towns that lost their factories, that lost their industries, and we screwed them twice. First, we took away their jobs. We literally shipped their jobs offshore or watched their jobs go to China. These towns started to deindustrialize. There was pain, there was opioids, there were drugs. And then what do? We get social media companies to find algorithms on their data to start targeting them with content, which is causing young girls to commit suicide, which is getting some people more addicted to drugs, which is getting people to be angry at each other. It's like we screwed them, taking away their jobs, and now we're taking their data and screwing them with social media.
I just feel like the devil is at the gates, man. I feel like we are at such an important time, and I know people have probably said that before, and what the fuck do I know, dude? I'm not mentally handicapped or whatever, but I am definitely adjacent, right? But I do know some things. I know that I'll say this. This is in that big, beautiful bill. And I don't know everything that's in it, but this is one thing that really stood out to me. And I asked JD about this. It says, for a full 10 years after enactment, no U.S. state or locality may enforce any law or regulation that limits, restricts, or otherwise regulates artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems entered into interstate commerce. Only laws encouraging use or deployment of AI are excluded. That means that you won't have any legal recourse against a machine.
Yeah, basically, like you know how you said you want hands on a wheel?
Yeah.
If now a state wants to pass a law saying you got to have a truck driver on a truck, You can't do that. If your state wants to pass a law saying you can't have an algorithm in social media that gets young girls addicted to content that makes them more likely to have eating disorders, can't do that.
So it's just going to be federal will be the only one.
And you know what?
Guy, do you not see do you not see what is at the gates?
And by the way, you're not going to get federal legislation because the way you get federal legislation in this country is when you get a bunch of states that pass legislation, then you get the industry coming to the federal government saying, oh, there are too many state laws. Can you just get one federal standard? But if you don't have the state laws, you're never going to have industry coming saying, let's get a federal standard. So it's basically like, let's have AI just develop. And that is the problem, right? There's the beautiful AI vision of how your nephews could learn this and build wealth, and we could have some people in one generation have economic security. And then there's the dystopian AI vision where big government and big companies control our data, are making decisions based on what predictive algorithms are telling about us, where we lose control to machines. And the question is, which way are we going to go as a society? And who's going to benefit? Is the AI revolution going to be like globalization? All the money piles up in my district. You know, we'll be sitting here 5 years from now, instead of $14 trillion, it'll be $50 trillion. And places like Louisiana will still be shafted. Or is the AI revolution going to be owned by American citizens? Like, to me, that is the whole biggest question of our society right now. Like
I agree, man. It's one of the reasons why I was so grateful that you were willing to come here so quick and then we're able to talk about this stuff. Because I wanted to have, I don't know, sometimes I just get afraid that I'm not educated enough to have certain conversations. That's what I feel like.
You're educated to the point where it's your values. And I think that's actually one of the things that the tech folks rely on. And it's like what the foreign policy establishment relies on. It's like the old priests. Like, we've got some secret language, secret vocabulary. You can't talk about the Middle East because you haven't studied the Middle East as much as us. You can't talk about technology because you don't know the math that went into the coding of AI. Who cares? These aren't questions of technological competence. These aren't questions of foreign policy competence. These are questions of human values.
Right. This is a moral,
it's a moral issue.
Stuff. But just to be sure to go back, so on that point we're talking about, that part that's in the big beautiful bill, it will not leave you very much legal recourse. Is that correct?
It'll leave you no legal recourse if you're a state. You can't do any regulations.
What if you're a citizen?
And if you're a citizen, you have almost no legal recourse. It's basically saying, look, let's trust the AI developers to just develop AI. And the argument they give is, well, we don't want to lose out to China. Well, you know what? I don't want to live in a society like China. China has a social credit score on every single person. Like, if you're in China, you get ranked. 10, you're a great Chinese citizen. 1, you're not. You know, because you didn't pay your bills, because you were rude to someone, because you made fun of someone.
Like, your karate sucks.
Like,
that's just an old joke.
The argument can't be like, we're going to stay ahead of China, so let's become like China.
Right.
How about we're going to stay ahead of China without being China, and we're going to have regulations because we're Americans.
And it's here now, though. People don't understand it's here now, right? Like, we can't keep kicking this. The ball, I feel like we're on the goal line.
We're on the goal. This is the thing that the tech leaders, why they're so involved suddenly in politics. They understand that this is the whole ball game.
Yeah.
Like, well, we're fighting over all this other stuff. Oh, where is the funding for Medicaid and tax? All very important. They're like, well, we just want the whole enchilada. We just want to control data and control jobs and control the economy. And these people in Washington are kind of clueless. Like, there are people and members of Congress, I'm not going to say the names, who are asking the Google CEO about the iPhone. They don't know that Apple makes the iPhone. They're technologically illiterate, and they're just being run circles around. And now they're saying, like, Congress, you're so illiterate, just don't do anything. Yeah. Don't have any regulation. Let us just do everything. Like, really? We didn't fight a revolution in this country to let the tech billionaires get to decide our future. And I think what we need, FDR was a traitor to his own class. He came from New York, Wall Street finance. He said, no, I'm not going to let finance dictate America. And in some ways, we need people from technology saying, yeah, we love technology, but no, technologists don't get to call the shots in this country. Theo's buddies get to call the shots. And by the way, they got better judgment than you.
Or just human beings, people with some, I think, because I don't have the best morals in the world or anything, but I feel like I fucking try to be alive because that's what I'm sentenced to right now, is being alive on earth. So why isn't there a tech leader that comes out with like, this is the app that shows you exactly who's doing what, so you can, and this is how you start to change. Like, we need something that's step by step, almost for dummies. And I hate to say that, but we've all become dumbed down by our phones and games. But we need to know if we have, I mean, because I just feel like this is it. We got to find a developer who's like, you know what? I'm going to fucking try to save humanity.
You know who we could have, and maybe you should have him on here, is Steve Wozniak. He's the guy who developed Apple with Steve Jobs. Cool guy, and he's a humanist. He believes human values. We need some people like Wozniak. I mean, there are others. The Woz, Steve Jobs in many ways was a humanist. People who understand technology, but are like, technology in the service of human values. Yeah. We're not gods. We don't want to rule. I often say we need Silicon Valley in the service of America, not America in the service of Silicon Valley.
Amen. I agree. I would love to meet Mr. Wozniak and talk to him. Okay. You campaigned for, and I'm going back to some of my charts here, but that's all right today, guys. That's where I'm at. It's been a long week and it's been a long life. You campaigned for Bernie Sanders in 2016 and co-chaired his presidential run in 2020.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right.
We've asked him directly what happened. And I was always I wish that they made it so that whoever won the presidency, the other if a president was Republican, the vice president had to be Democrat, right?
Yeah.
I wish it was like that, because then it seems like there would be a
common ground, or invited them to govern together. Even,
right.
Like
then there has to be some sort of teamwork, because otherwise you outsource it, and it seems like it's so much more expensive. But what I was going to ask you right here was, and we've asked him directly what happened, but in your opinion, why do you think that he lost out on the nomination both times? Because I think that's had an effect on how the Democratic Party has been perceived over the years.
Well, the establishment screwed him. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He should have been the nominee in 2020. Yeah. You had the whole party basically drop out, tell people to drop out, and endorse Joe Biden. They resurrected Joe Biden. He had lost Iowa. He came in fourth or fifth. He lost New Hampshire, fourth or fifth. It's never happened in the history of the party, in recent history, that someone is losing that badly and then wins. And they suddenly see Bernie's winning Iowa, he's winning New Hampshire, he's winning Nevada, unstoppable. Nate Silver had him at 70% odds to win the nomination at that point. And the party just reacts, and they say no. And they convince Buttigieg to drop out and endorse Biden. They convinced Beto to endorse Biden. They convinced Klobuchar to endorse Biden.
How did they convince them all? Was it funding and stuff, you think?
Well, I think they said, look, you want to have a future. You can be in the cabinet. We're going to be for you. And then they're like, Bernie can't win. Bernie can't win. Come on. Donald Trump just won. He's talking about invading Greenland, and you're telling me we can't talk about Medicare for all? I mean, the one thing that Donald Trump has shown you is you can say what you believe.
Anybody can win.
Anyone, and that's JD had that too. He was like, you come on, I disagree with him, but you know where he stands. Just campaign with your heart, campaign with your ideas. That's what, and Bernie was speaking to people who were outsiders, who were underdogs. I think that's why you and I resonate. I was an underdog growing up. I was not supposed to be a politician. I didn't have a father who was a senator or a rich person or a congressperson. No one would have thought this Indian kid of Hindu faith was going to have any shot to get elected the dog catcher in this country. Yeah. But Bernie was speaking for all the folks who weren't supposed to make it, who aren't making it in this country.
Bernie was an underdog.
He was an underdog.
That's another thing about Trump, though. Trump was also an underdog. You know what I'm saying? He did have part of that with them. A lot of these, but I do think there's people that love an underdog, man. Okay, let's build the primary early, right? Who should the Democrats run? Well, first of all, do you think we need to still have just Republican and Democratic Party, or do you think there's value in getting a big financier to support a third party? Say if Elon Musk decided to go and support a third party.
I think there's a value in third parties. Here's the problem I have in terms of just third parties running for president. A lot of times it has to be a billionaire. And then you're like, okay, is that billionaire really going to have the values of the working class? But in terms of parties, and I'm one of the few people in the Democratic Party who says this, I think have more parties. If the Democrats are oh, your third party is going to take away votes from us, that was be better. It's not the voter's job to vote for you. It's your job to convince the voter. I never understood this with the whole Harris-Trump race. They're Jill Stein is taking votes away from us. I was like, her job is to run. Your job is to convince people to vote for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if like Apple Computers wasn't selling iPhones, they're like, well, this other third-party company is taking iPhone sales away from you. Okay, well, why aren't you making the iPhone better, right? And so I think having more parties is good. I still think the Democratic Party is the vehicle where we can really have a progressive working class agenda. I think we've got to reform it in the way Bernie Sanders was trying. And I think the Republican Party, I hope, will become more anti-war, will become more working class centered, so that we have reform in this country.
Yeah, I just don't know how we could keep going with nothing, because that's what it starts to almost feel like, is that we're not even getting anything. I've heard you talk about the idea of economic patriotism.
Yeah.
What does that kind of mean when you say that? I like that terminology.
My parents came to this country in the 1960s. It was the time John F. Kennedy said, let's go to the moon. Let's dream big. This country was humming. We were building things. We were making things. We were doing things for civilization. I think that's what can bring us together. Let's have a Marshall Plan, not for Europe, a 21st century Marshall Plan for America, where we start to build new factories, new industry, new AI centers, new AI academies, new universities, new trade schools. And we come together in this country, white, black, Latino, Asian, to build things in America. And by the way, I think that's something even some of the MAGA folks could get behind. Like, what is it? We need a new national purpose. You know, and when John F. Kennedy was president, 60% of Americans had trust in government. Today, it's probably like down to less than 20%. And the reality is, you know, we talked about the PAC money and the lobbyist money, but most people go into Congress, they want to do something for America. They
Really,
care.
you believe that?
I do. I believe that about, you know, J.D. Vance and I have gotten into arguments. I believe that about him. Like,
Yeah.
I believe that
I
about,
do too about him. I do believe that.
you know, I believe that about most people. Like, I think they have a story. They want to do something good. The system is so broken. But you know what we need again is a vision that's going to inspire us to come together, to do things. And economic patriotism, I think, would be one of those visions. Like, let's redevelop communities.
Yeah, me and Mike, I was talking with Mike Rowe, and we've kind of started to put the wheels on creating like a place that's just American products, right? Where you would go to buy stuff that's just American, you know, and start to see what that would look like. So that would be really interesting to have like a new American kind of QVC, but all the stuff is just American stuff. And
one of my bills is actually to give a tax credit at the end of the year if you keep your receipts and buy American. So look, you buy an American glass, American book, you get to deduct it on your taxes.
I love that.
You know,
I love that. If we could, and also if we just didn't give money to some of these other places and stuff, we'd have a lot of money for people. Yeah, it's funny that American manufacturing doesn't even seem to be a part of the Democratic talking points anymore.
No, which is so ironic because FDR industrialized the whole country. You know, the tragedy I often say of Elon Musk, who I've known, is that he could have been Bill Knudsen. I know you're like American history. Bill Knudsen was this guy who was running GM.
Knudsen?
Knudson. And you can look him up. And he was running GM, and FDR says, you know, we need you. We need you to build American industry. We were making 1,000 planes a year. Within a few years, Bill Knudsen takes it to 300,000 planes. Wow. And instead, I mean, the tragedy in my view of Musk is he was undermining and destroying like the NIH and all these agencies, where what we needed is someone to come in and say, let's industrialize this country. Let's work with labor to build new industry, new jobs. The Democrats did that. Like I don't understand how we let Trump become the Made in America guy. We need to be the party that says, here's our vision for making things in America. And wouldn't it be great if the argument in this country was who was going to build America better? And like Trump's like, here are my ideas. And we were like, here are our ideas. And maybe you take the best of those ideas. But how about a common goal again? Like, I think the country is exhausted. We're embarrassed.
Yeah.
They see all of us in Congress, and I'm guilty of this too sometimes, and we're arguing and name-calling, and they're like, yeah, but my life, like I can't afford a house. My kids aren't going to have the same job I did. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's happening with this country. Like, just get your act together and get some direction. This is supposed to be the greatest country in the world, and start working together on Team America.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the dream is fading. I feel like and I don't want to be a pessimist, but I feel like I don't want to say the dream is fading, but I want to say that it feels like we don't all have the same dream. That's fading. That's the part that sometimes feels like it's fading. It used to be that you go to bed at night and it felt like you all had this universal dream, I think.
Yeah, I think, and we've lost that. Like, what is the common American dream? And we're so divided, right?
Yeah.
Life is so different for some people in Silicon Valley than it is for folks who are like, how am I going to pay my medical bills? How am I going to pay for rent? How are my kids going to have a decent job? And the other thing is that we lack a common sense of vision. Like, what are we doing as a society together as Americans? And I think if we get people talking about that, and that's why I say a Marshall Plan, economic patriotism, rebuilding this country, and that doesn't mean old factories. Like, it's going to be the new modern factories, new industries.
Well, I think it's also going to get weird if some of the greed doesn't end, that people are just going to want to see the rich start to suffer. And that's when shit can get really weird. That's when you start getting people into revolutionary thought. But then maybe, who knows, maybe we just slowly drift off into the ether of our sofa with Cheez-Its on our chest, I don't know. Some man with fake breasts laying there eating Cheez-Its, and just drifting into the ether of existence.
Well, that would be sad if we don't,
But I hope that's not our Paul Revere, right? I hope that there is still like a lot of people who believe in something, and I think there is, and I think there's people that want something new. I'm glad that even just asking Mike Johnson for help with that thing, I think that's neat, just because I didn't even know that we could do that, What was anything else we wanted to talk about? We're almost there. Let me see. One thing that J.D. Vance said that was really interesting the first time I spoke with him was he said that a lot of Congress people and representatives will go senators will turn over to be lobbyists because they don't get paid enough by the government type of situation. Is that true? Take me down a little bit of that discussion where the salary is better being a lobbyist than it is to be on this side.
Well, he's absolutely right, and it's terrible what happens. I mean, you are in Congress, you're working on the Armed Services Committee, overseeing defense contractors, then you'll retire, and suddenly you'll become a lobbyist for the defense industry. You'll go from making $170,000 a year to making $1 million a year. And that's why I have a bill. It's called the Drain the Swamp Act, or my Political Reform Act, and it says ban members of Congress from ever becoming lobbyists. Now, Harry Truman won World War II. He did more than anyone in Congress put together, and he started NATO. And Harry Truman, at the end of his presidency, the guy who wins World War II, sets us up for the post-World War II order, writes to someone when he was invited to give a speech. He said, "I'm a little embarrassed. Betsy and I can't afford the train ride. Can you pay for the train ride? Happy to give the speech," right? It used to be you went into politics not to get rich. And I don't begrudge people who are wealthy. There are a lot of people who are wealthy, but you shouldn't be in public service to make money. And afterwards, you can do a lot of things. Go do something in AI. Go do something else. Don't go and lobby. Don't become a member of Congress who's just going to cash out by lobbying. It's something I will never do, but it's also a ban we should have. And maybe we can make that a bipartisan effort.
I don't see how it couldn't be, because every human wants it on both sides. So I don't see why it just keeps happening. And yeah, if you're good at your job of being a congressman or a senator, are they different ones? Yeah. Yeah. Then afterwards, you could do a tour at all the donut shops. You show up over there.
Yeah.
People pay you in a heartbeat to show up there, take photos and stuff, get a hug or something, get a glazed.
Just the one thing they shouldn't do is start a podcast. Politicians' podcasts are terrible.
Yeah.
They're like so boring.
Newsom tried it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just kind of because it's like so stilted, and there's no humor. You got to have some humor. Like, the politician by the straight guy, but you need someone who's funny. You need, like, this conversation. It's kind of all over the place. It's not like, oh, wow, what are the poll numbers on this? And so it's just, I've never seen a politician who had a good, interesting podcast.
Yeah, I think that would be a bit much maybe, but I don't know. Shit. I mean, anybody could do it. It's hard for saying shit right in front of you, sir.
Oh, no, not at all.
Well, I should have done better.
No, not at all.
I did have this question though. We're talking about that. You voted in the past about finances. You voted in the past to ban members of Congress from trading and holding individual stocks. This hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that hasn't happened? You know, like if Martha Stewart went to prison, then Nancy Pelosi should go to prison. It feels like, you know.
Well, look, I don't think that Pelosi, in my view, I mean, this has done things that are unethical, but I think that there's such a trust deficit in the Congress that people think that the biggest problem is money in politics, right? They're taking all this money from PACs. They're taking all this money from lobbyists. But at the same time, people are concerned if members of Congress are individually trading stock. And so the bill I've supported, calling for a ban on stock trading, is a No Trust Act. And it says, you know, put your money in a trust, have someone else manage it. Don't be there trading stocks or telling your advisor to trade stocks while you're creating a conflict. And why hasn't it gotten a vote? I don't know. I think Johnson can get us a vote on. I think it would pass overwhelmingly, and we've got a bipartisan group that's pushing for a vote on that. But if you do the 5 parts of my political reform plan, ban PAC money, ban super PACs, ban lobbyists from getting money, ban members of Congress from ever becoming a lobbyist, and ban stock trading in Congress, I think you would start to restore trust in Congress. And some of the MAGA folks actually have liked the plan the most. I had a Drain the Swamp Act, which I said, you want to drain the swamp? How about just telling lobbyists they can't give gifts to White House officials? And someone's like, oh, you only wanted to apply for Donald Trump. No, I was like, I wanted to apply whether it's Donald Trump or a Democratic president.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, all of the things you're saying seem very, like, I think these are things that are super important. I feel like it's things that most people feel are super important. And that's, but it never what happens. It's like, it just like, we talk about these things, everybody's like, yeah. And then it gets to some place where nothing ever really evolves, it feels like. And that's where I feel like we're at now. Instead, Hollywood gives us like, here's a Diddy case, go, you know, keep the black population at ease, you know, like, or here's a, you know, we'll stretch the NBA Finals another week. We'll send in a special ref that'll.
Are you for the Pacers? Or
allegedly, I'm for the Pacers.
Yeah.
I like Halliburton. I think he's just a super guy. But yeah, I know it feels like it never gets there. You had, let me see, my producer would also. You have but your family owns stock, or you had stock in your family before you got married.
Yeah.
How would that relate into a congressman or senator owning?
Well, under the Trust Act, members of Congress, and they can be in a trust. They just can't trade stock. They can't trade stock. And I think that's why I've sponsored the bill. I think that what we want to do is eliminate conflicts. And if you can have the No Trust Act happen, it says members of Congress cannot trade stock. If there are any assets, they put them in a trust. And that would eliminate conflicts. But what is upsetting to people is people making trades while they're doing policy, and that's where the conflict is. The federal employees currently aren't allowed to do that. They have to have their money in some trust.
Yeah. Yeah, because it would almost be, ethically it doesn't make sense, but it would be hard not to. You're in a meeting and you're hearing about this or that, to get on your phone and get on your app and make a trade, you know? Heck, if I'm watching a Sports Center highlight or something and I see like one of the players has a call for something, I'm betting against that team the next night, you know? Like, well, if I see Walker Buehler's, if he seems like he's angry about something the next day, I'll probably bet he has a few more strikeouts.
Well, look, I think the honest truth is there are not many Pete Roses in the Congress. There are not many people, honestly, who are out there trading on information. You know, all my parties, for example, gone after Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she says that she's got an independent advisor who's making the trades. I actually believe her. But the problem is that the perception that has been created is that people are benefiting from this. So just pass the No Trust Act. It's got bipartisan support. People, if they have assets, they can put them in a trust. They can have it independently managed. Then you know that they're not sitting there making trades or telling people what to do.
Can they legally advise the trust advisor? I mean, wouldn't that
No, they can't in day-to-day trading. They can't. They can set it up, but they can't tell the trust advisor, okay, trade here, trade there, and it has to be all disclosed. And that would assure the American people that you don't have people out there trading on stocks in a way that is that they can't.
Yeah. You know, the craziest thing is, I just thought sometimes one of the benefits of the surveillance system would be that finally we get to see what all these senators and Congress people and everybody's up to, you know?
Right.
I wish it could just tell us, like, I wish you had a breathalyzer for if people were being honest or not. That's what we need. That's what we need.
There you go.
You know?
Have forced the lie detector test next time I'm on. Maybe I'm gonna have to like do a lie detector.
Take
while
that
I'm
back to Silicon Valley with you. Khanna. That's your name.
You got that. You got the pronunciation perfect.
I'm getting better. Yeah, I got to go to India once. I went to Madras one time and had a really great time. Really loved it. A lot of excitement, energy in the faces in the eyes, and the smiles of the people there. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Best of luck to you, man. I appreciate you coming on and talking. Keep us out of Iran unless we're already there. I know we've been on the air for a couple hours, so who knows? But
well, with Massey, we're going to do it together, and with your advocacy, and keep up your voice. You know, it gives me hope that we got people like you out there just speaking from your heart. And don't let anyone say you don't know what you're talking about. You know a lot more of what you're talking about than a lot of the people running this country.
But thank you so much for your time. Yep.
Appreciate you.
Now I'm just floating on the breeze, and I feel I'm falling like these leaves. I must be cornerstone. Oh.